The summer night of 1967 hung heavy over Los Angeles, the air thick with the heat that refused to dissipate even after sunset. In the heart of Chinatown, on the second floor of a nondescript building, a film projector hummed steadily in the darkness. The smell of old leather, sweat, and sandalwood incense permeated the small gymnasium. The rhythmic clicking of the machine provided the only soundtrack. As images flickered against a bare white wall, Bruce Lee sat alone on a wooden stool, his eyes fixed on the footage with an intensity that bordered on obsession. A cigarette burned forgotten between his fingers, its acrid smoke curling upward into the projector's beam of light. On the wall, a heavyweight boxer moved with impossible grace. Muhammad Ali, the greatest. If you want to discover what happened when the two fastest fighters in the world met face to face, and why this encounter became one of the most legendary untold stories in combat sports history, stay until the end. You won't regret it. Bruce had watched this particular fight 17 times in the past week, and each viewing revealed something new. He leaned forward, rewinding the footage to study a specific sequence. There, the way Ali shifted his weight before the jab, the almost imperceptible drop of the shoulder, the rhythm that seemed random but followed a mathematical precision that Bruce was only beginning to decode. His notebook lay open beside him, filled with diagrams, measurements, and observations written in both English and Chinese. The door to the gymnasium opened without warning, flooding the room with light from the hallway. Bruce didn't turn immediately, assuming it was one of his students arriving for a late session, but the silhouette that filled the doorway was far too large, far too commanding to belong to any of his pupils. Muhammad Ali stepped into the room, his presence immediately transforming the modest space into something electric. At 6 feet 3 inches and 215 pounds of sculpted athletic perfection, he was the most recognizable athlete on the planet. His record stood at 29 victories, 0 defeats. He had defeated Sonny Liston twice, destroyed Floyd Patterson, and talked his way into the hearts and minds of millions. His face had graced the covers of magazines worldwide. His voice had echoed through television sets in every country, and his name had become synonymous with greatness itself. He was 25 years old and utterly convinced of his own invincibility. The boxing world had never seen anyone like him, and many believed they never would again. Behind Ali stood Jim Brown, the legendary NFL running back, who had arranged this meeting after both men expressed curiosity about each other. Ali's eyes swept across the gymnasium, taking in the modest equipment, the wooden dummy in the corner, and finally settling on the frozen image of himself projected on the wall. A smile spread across his face, equal parts amusement and genuine curiosity. "So you're the little guy who thinks he can beat anyone." Ali's voice filled the room with its familiar rhythm and melody. Even his speech patterns carried the cadence of a fighter, jabbing and weaving through words. Bruce rose slowly from his stool and turned to face his visitor. The contrast between them was almost comical. Ali towered over Bruce by nearly 8 inches and outweighed him by 80 pounds. In any normal circumstance, this would be a mismatch of absurd proportions. But there was nothing normal about either of these men. "And you're the man I've been studying," Bruce replied, his voice calm and measured. He gestured toward the projected image. "Your footwork is exceptional." Unlike anything in boxing history, Ali's eyebrows rose slightly. He walked further into the room, his movements fluid despite his size, and studied the frozen frame of himself on the wall. "You watching me?" "I'm flattered, little brother. Most people just watch to see me knock somebody out. Most people miss what makes you truly dangerous," Bruce said, moving to stand beside the projector. "They see the hands, they miss the feet." Ali turned to face Bruce directly, his competitive spirit awakened. "My hands are what win fights, fastest in the world. Nobody sees them coming. Lightning don't announce itself before it strikes." "Speed is not just about hands," Bruce countered. "It's about economy of motion, eliminating the unnecessary pretty words." Ali's smile remained, but his eyes had sharpened. "But in my ring, words don't win fights. Fists do. And my fists have put 29 men on the canvas. In any fight, the man who moves with less wasted motion wins. That's not poetry. That's physics." Ali took a step closer to Bruce, deliberately using his size to establish dominance. "You think you're fast, little man? You think your kung fu is faster than these?" He raised his fists, letting them hover in the air between them. These hands have beaten men twice your size. Bruce didn't step back, didn't flinch. May I show you something? Without waiting for permission, he turned to the projector and advanced the film to a specific frame. Ali watched, intrigued despite himself. Bruce pointed to the image, his finger tracing the position of Ali's body. Here, before every jab, your shoulder drops 2 inches. Your eyes shift slightly to the right. You transfer your weight to your back foot before launching forward. Bruce looked directly at Ali. You telegraph? Imperceptibly to most. But it's there. The smile faded from Ali's face. In all his years of boxing, through countless opponents and trainers, no one had ever broken down his technique with such surgical precision. He had been studied by the best coaches in the world, analyzed by experts who had spent decades in the sport. And here was this small man in a Chinatown gymnasium, seeing things they had all missed. Everybody telegraphs, Ali said, but his voice had lost some of its playful edge. That's boxing. You load up, you throw. And that's why boxing has limitations, Bruce replied. What if you could strike without loading? Without announcing, what if the punch simply arrived? Ali's competitive fire flared. You think you could hit me? You think you could touch the champion of the world? I think we could learn from each other, Bruce said. But if you want to test speed against speed, he let the sentence hang in the air. Ali immediately dropped into his boxing stance, his hands rising to their familiar position. Just try to touch me, little brother. Nobody touches Ali. Jim Brown straightened against the wall, suddenly alert. This was what he had come to see. What happened next would become the subject of whispered legend in both boxing and martial arts circles for decades. The moment would be analyzed, debated, and retold in gyms and dojos around the world. Ali threw 3 jabs in rapid succession. These were the fastest hands in boxing, weapons that had humiliated champions and destroyed careers. Each punch traveled with the speed that had earned him the nickname the Greatest. Any other man would have been hit by at least one of them. Bruce's head moved in small, precise arcs, not dramatic dodges, not desperate lunges, but subtle shifts that allowed each jab to pass within millimeters of its target without making contact. He hadn't moved his feet, hadn't retreated, had simply not been where the punches arrived. Before Ali could reset, Bruce's right hand appeared at the champion's chin. Open palm, no contact, but positioned with absolute precision. Then his left hand materialized at Ali's ribs. Then his right again, this time at the throat. There and there. And there, Bruce said quietly. 3 times I could have struck. Ali dropped his hands and stepped back. For perhaps the first time in his professional career, he looked genuinely startled. How? I didn't even see you move, because you were watching my hands, Bruce explained. I was watching your whole body. Be like water, my friend. Water never fights the obstacle. It flows around it. Your intention begins in your center, travels through your shoulders, reaches your arms, and finally arrives at your fists. By the time your hands move, I've already read the message and flowed past it. A long moment of silence filled the gymnasium. The projector continued its steady hum, Ali's image still frozen on the wall. Then Muhammad Ali did something that shocked even Jim Brown, who thought he knew the champion completely. He laughed. Not a mocking laugh or a defensive laugh, but a genuine expression of delight and wonder. Little brother, Ali said, shaking his head slowly, you are something else entirely. I've sparred with the best heavyweights in the world, and you just made me feel like I was throwing punches underwater. Bruce allowed a small smile. Your speed is real. Your footwork is genius. But there are dimensions you haven't explored yet. Ali's eyes narrowed with curiosity. What would you do against someone my size? For real? 215 pounds. Against what, 140? In a real fight, I could take 100 of your little punches and keep coming. Size is a tool, Bruce replied. Speed is a weapon, but precision is the master of both. He turned to Jim Brown. May I borrow you for a moment? Jim pushed off from the wall and walked over, curious about what Bruce had in mind. Bruce positioned him in the center of the room and retrieved a thick leather pad, placing it against Jim's chest. Hold this firmly, Bruce instructed. Plant your feet. Use your strength. Jim Brown was one of the most powerful athletes in America. 230 pounds of muscle that had bulldozed through NFL defenses for years. He braced himself, curious but confident. Bruce positioned himself directly in front of Jim, so close that his fist, when extended, barely touched the pad. 1 inch of distance, maybe less. The gap between his knuckles and the leather was almost invisible. "What are you doing?" Ali asked, stepping closer to observe, his brow furrowed with confusion. "You can't generate power from that distance. There's no room to punch. Every boxer knows you need space to load up." Bruce didn't respond. His body seemed to relax completely for a fraction of a second. Then something happened that defied everything Ali understood about generating force. A small movement, a compression, an explosion. Jim Brown, 230 pounds of NFL legend, stumbled backward 3 feet, his eyes wide with shock. The sound of the impact echoed off the gymnasium walls. "What the hell was that?" Ali's voice had risen with genuine astonishment. "The 1-inch punch," Bruce said calmly. "It's not about muscular force or wind-up. It's about focusing every ounce of energy through a single point, transferring power instantaneously." Ali approached Jim Brown, who was recovering his balance. "You okay, Jim?" Jim nodded slowly, rubbing his chest where the pad had been. His eyes carried a trace of disbelief. "I've been hit by linebackers with full running starts who didn't move me like that. Professional football players, 300 pounds, coming at me full speed. And he was standing still, 1 inch away. It felt like getting hit by a car." Ali turned back to Bruce, and something had fundamentally shifted in his expression. The playfulness was gone, replaced by something deeper. Respect, recognition, the acknowledgement of one master encountering another. "Show me," Ali said simply. "Show me how you did that." For the next hour, the gymnasium became a classroom where 2 of history's greatest fighters exchanged knowledge. Bruce broke down energy transfer and power generation without telegraphing. Ali demonstrated his footwork, the shuffle that baffled opponents, the rhythm patterns he used to disrupt timing. Bruce turned the projector back on, showing Ali his own footage, but through new eyes. "Here, you create a rhythm. 1, 2, your opponent expects it. Then here, you break it. 1, 2, 3, the unexpected beat. That's genius. Pure jazz." Ali watched himself on the wall, seeing his own technique analyzed with an appreciation no boxing trainer had ever provided. "No one's ever studied me like this," he admitted. "Because they watch you to defeat you," Bruce replied. "I watch to learn." Jim Brown sat nearby, witnessing something he would tell stories about for the rest of his life. Two men who had every reason to compete had instead found common ground in the pursuit of mastery. As the night grew late, Ali made an offer. "Come to my training camp. Show my guys what you showed me tonight. That head movement, that precision, it could change everything." Bruce nodded slowly. "Only if you show me how you make 215 pounds move like 150. Your footwork defies physics. I want to understand it." Ali extended his hand, and Bruce clasped it firmly. It was a handshake between equals, between men who recognize that greatness exists in many forms, and that true mastery knows no boundaries of style or origin. Jim Brown rose and walked over to join them. "I've seen incredible athletes in my life," he said. "Tonight, I watched the 2 fastest men alive recognize each other. They talked until nearly dawn, discussing philosophy, training, and the endless pursuit of perfection. When Ali finally left, he paused at the doorway and looked back. "Bruce Lee," he said, trying out the name with his characteristic rhythm. "I'm going to remember this night. And someday, everyone's going to know your name the way they know mine." Bruce smiled. "The question everyone will ask is who would win if we fought for real." Ali's famous grin returned. "Let them ask. We know the truth. Real masters don't need to fight each other. They just need to recognize each other." In the years that followed, Bruce Lee incorporated Ali's footwork principles into Jeet Kune Do, revolutionizing his approach to movement and creating a system that would influence martial arts forever. Muhammad Ali spoke of their meeting in interviews, always with respect, always acknowledging that he had encountered something beyond boxing that night in Chinatown. Both men had entered that gymnasium as masters of their craft. Both left, having discovered there was still more to learn. The lesson of that summer evening transcends martial arts and boxing. The greatest never stop learning, even from those completely different from themselves. True confidence doesn't need to defeat others. It simply recognizes excellence wherever it appears. If this meeting of legends inspired you, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to understand that real masters never stop learning, even from each other. And comment below, if Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali had actually fought, who do you think would have won?